I'm not a lawyer, but let's get into what happened before lunch on day 10 of Diddy's federal trial. So the day kicks off with the government confirming that they will be submitting letters regarding the defense wanting to strike Dr. Hugh's testimony and part of Kid Cudi's testimony. And then prosecutors call Capricorn Clark to the stand. If you recall, she was brought up during Cassie's testimony as well as Kid Cudi's testimony. Clark says she started working at Bad Boy as Diddy's personal assistant back in 2004 and went on to become the global brand director of Sean John's women's brand by 2008. However, before working at Bad Boy, she interned at Def Jam right out of high school and later worked at Death Row under Suge Knight. Capricorn also mentions that Suge is the father of one of her friend's children. And on her first day working for Diddy, he took her to Central Park with his security guard. It was after dark, and he, being Diddy, told her that he didn't know she had anything to do with Suge Knight, and if anything happened, he would have to, quote, off her. Capricorn says the bodyguard stood there silently, and she took the threat very seriously. On the stand, Capricorn admits that she could have been more transparent about her employment background when applying to Bad Boy. Capricorn is then asked by prosecutors if she's ever seen Diddy with a weapon, and she tells the story of a time that Diddy and 50 Cent had to do some kind of press event for MTV. After the event, Diddy, Capricorn, and Diddy's manager at the time get on an elevator, and Diddy mentions having some sort of issue with 50 Cent and then says, quote, "I like weapons." Capricorn then describes a time that she was accused of stealing some jewelry. She says that they were all traveling from New York to Miami and she was made responsible for the jewelry. But before they all got to the airport, she realized that the bag holding the jewelry was missing. So Diddy continues on with the trip to Miami, but Capricorn Clark says that she was held back in New York and was questioned for 3 hours by Diddy's security guard, and then he searched her apartment. The following day, Capricorn says that the security guard took her to an empty office space, locked the door behind her, and then she was given a lie detector test. Clark says the man giving the test told her that if she failed, she was going to be thrown into the East River. There was an objection to that part. Capricorn says she was petrified, and the person giving the test told her to calm down because the results kept coming back inconclusive. And so she was brought back to take this test for 5 days. And according to her, it would last all day, and she was not free to leave. After the 5th day of this testing, she was told that she could return to work. And when she did so, she says Diddy never asked where she was, nor did he ever mention the test. And she says she doesn't know if the jewelry was ever found. When the prosecutor asked her why she continued to work for Diddy after all this stuff happened, she says that if she didn't, they'd think she actually stole the jewelry. Moving on to working conditions, Capricorn Clark says that she made $55,000 and worked from 9 a.m. to 4 a.m. On a good day, she says she got about 4 hours of sleep. And when she spoke to HR about being owed some overtime, they calculated that she was owed about $80,000 for overtime that she worked over a 3-month period. But when Diddy found out about this, he allegedly ripped up the paper and she was never paid. Now, in regards to hotel rooms, Capricorn Clark says she assisted in setting those up. Like some of the testimony from previous people, Capricorn Clark says that Diddy would book rooms under the name Frank Black or Frank White, and she was required to unpack his clothes and his shoes and to make sure his toiletry bag, which had narcotics and baby oil and stuff like that in it, was always there, and she had to bring candles to provide lighting for the rooms. She says when Diddy would check out, she would do a sweep of the room to make sure nothing was left behind. And sometimes the rooms would be left damaged and there would be handprints left in oil. When prosecutors asked Capricorn Clark about Diddy's relationship with Cassie, she tells the story of a time in 2010 when Diddy asked Capricorn why she didn't have a boyfriend. She says he then called Cassie into the room and had her sit down, stand up, and turn around on his command. And after doing these commands, Diddy allegedly said, quote, "You women don't want to do that, and that's why you don't have a man." Clark says she responded to that comment saying, "You damn right." Capricorn also tells the story of a time in 2006 when she says Diddy got violent with her. She says it was in his Miami Star Island home, and Diddy told her, "I don't care what goes on this weekend, you are not to leave this house." Clark says that Pharrell Williams was brought in by boat, and another guest who was there needed to go to another location in Miami. And so she escorts this guest to this location. But after being gone for about an hour, Diddy called her asking her where she was. When she gets back to his house, she says Diddy told her, "See, your problem is you want a life and you can't have that here." And then he told her not to leave the house again. The following day, Capricorn Clark says she asked the chef if there was any turkey bacon, to which the chef says, "No effing turkey bacon." Are they mad about turkey bacon? And then Capricorn tells the chef that she hates it here. The chef apparently tells Diddy that Capricorn said she hates it here. And so Capricorn says that Diddy charged her. She says he was pushing her and saying, if you hate it here, get the F out of this house. According to Capricorn Clark, he pushed her about 30 yards using 75% of his force until a security guard eventually stepped in and told Diddy to stop. Capricorn gets her bags and she says she left the job after this incident. However, after a couple years, she returned as global brand director. From there, Capricorn begins telling the story of Cassie's relationship with Kid Cudi. She says that Cassie brought Kid Cudi to her apartment once, and that's how she learned that the two were seeing each other. She goes on to say that the three of them would sometimes hang out, and one time Cassie texted her asking if they could pick up Kid Cudi, and Capricorn told her to delete the text because Diddy paid for both of their phones, and she was terrified that he would find out about Cassie's relationship with Cudi. She then took Cassie to Best Buy to get a burner phone to prevent Diddy from finding out. And then on December 22nd, 2011, between 5:30 and 6 a.m., Capricorn says she was woken up to hearing banging on her door. She looks through the peephole and sees that it's Diddy, pacing back and forth. His pants are split up to his crotch, exposing his underwear, and he's carrying a weapon. Capricorn says she opened the door, and when Diddy comes in, he asks her why she didn't tell him. He then tells her to get dressed because they're going to off Kid Cudi. Clark says she tries to tell him that she doesn't want to go, but Diddy says, quote, I don't give an F what you want to do, go get dressed. So Capricorn gets dressed. She says a man named Ruben is driving and Diddy is next to her with a weapon in his lap. She says the three of them drive to Kid Cudi's house, and according to her, Diddy and Ruben go inside. Capricorn stays inside the car and calls Cassie on her burner phone, telling her that Diddy was inside of Cudi's house. Capricorn says she can hear someone, who she later learned was Kid Cudi, yelling in the background, quote, he's in my house? And once off the phone, Capricorn says she changed Cassie's contact name in her phone to Stormy, which was her best friend's name, so that Diddy wouldn't know she was talking to Cassie. But when Diddy gets back in the car, the first thing he wants to know is who she was talking to. He asks to see Capricorn's phone and calls the last number in the phone, which of course was Cassie. And then he says, quote, B, what the F is this number? Capricorn says a short time later, Kid Cudi pulls up next to the Escalade that they're all in outside of his house, and then he drives away. They then, according to Capricorn, follow Cudi, like pursue him. She said it felt like forever, but couldn't have actually lasted longer than a minute. Ruben, Diddy, and Capricorn then stop at a nightclub, and Diddy tells her to call Cassie and tell her that Diddy is not going to let Capricorn go until Cassie comes. Child, this is so much. So Cassie agrees, and Capricorn goes to pick her up. When Cassie and Capricorn get back to Diddy's house, Diddy told them not to talk to police and to convince Kid Cudi not to tell police that Diddy was involved in the break-in at his house. And she says Diddy tells them if they don't convince Kid Cudi to do this, he's going to, quote, off all of them. So Capricorn says her and Cassie go to Kid Cudi's house to try and convince him to not say anything. And when they get back to Diddy's house, Capricorn Clark says that Diddy was wearing a robe and immediately began kicking Cassie. At one point, she says Diddy threatened to hurt her if she tried to help Cassie. So she and the security guard just stood by. When Clark says she eventually left the house, Diddy was still kicking Cassie, and Capricorn calls Cassie's mom telling her, please help her. I can't call the police, but you can. The jury is then again shown the email that Cassie sent when Cassie said that Diddy was threatening to release tapes of her and was also threatening to hurt Kid Cudi and have somebody else do it. After all of this happened, Capricorn Clark says that Diddy would continue to ask her why she didn't tell him that Cassie was dating Kid Cudi, and he once said, quote, I should off you bees, and cut her face. Clark estimated that Diddy threatened her 50 times after the incident happened up until the summer of that following year. And he told her that she couldn't be friends with Cassie anymore. Capricorn says that she told HR and the then president of Bad Boy, Harv Pierre, about what happened. But Harv said, quote, that's crazy, but it's going to be okay. In August of 2012, Capricorn Clark says that she was fired and Diddy told her she would never work again and he would make her want to off herself. A few months after being fired, Capricorn says that she received a settlement for allegations of wrongful termination, but on the stand, she didn't say how much that settlement was for. She says after years of not being hired, she eventually went back to work for Diddy in 2016. At this time, Cassie was still dating Diddy, and according to Capricorn, she was taking more narcotics than she was before. Capricorn says she did that work for about 2 years and hasn't spoken to Cassie since she left in 2018. And with that, direct examination of Capricorn Clark ends, and they go to lunch. So Mark Agnafilo from Diddy's defense team handles the cross-examination, and he starts off highlighting that he met with Capricorn Clark in April of 2024, which was after Cassie filed her civil lawsuit. And during that meeting, Capricorn Clark expressed wanting to come back and work with Diddy. Agnafilo goes on to say that during that meeting, Clark said, Diddy, quote, wouldn't be in this mess if he had kept me around. Capricorn Clark agrees that she probably said something like that during that meeting. She also testifies that her relationship with Diddy was 1000% platonic, but Agnifilo asks her if she sent Diddy a text message in 2021 saying, quote, "Did you ever know that I had the biggest crush on you before I started working for you?" In the text, she goes on to say, "We hung out all the time. I played it super cool. I don't think you knew. I just knew for sure that you liked to have me around." In response to this, Capricorn Clark says she doesn't remember saying this to Diddy, but she does recall reaching out to him in 2021. And Agnifilo never goes into if Diddy responded and if he did what he said in that response. From there, Agnifilo asked Capricorn Clark why she at times didn't get along with Cassie, to which Clark says in 2008, Cassie got more bravado being Diddy's girlfriend the longer it lasted. She says, quote, "She thought I was being paid to help her. She went from being more of a sweet model to a feisty girlfriend." Agnifilo and Clark then have a bit of a back and forth about Cassie's talent. Agnifilo asks Clark if she thinks Cassie was talented, to which Clark says Cassie had talent and was very beautiful. Agnifilo says, but was not talented, and Clark says she was not. "I have good taste." Oh, now wait a minute. Clark goes on to say, quote, "Talented to me is Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. Cassie, she was more of a studio musician. She needed things equalized." Agnifilo says, "Did she perform live?" Clark says, "A couple times. Not the greatest." Agnifilo asks if she was a hard worker, to which Clark says, "At times." And when Agnifilo asks when wasn't Cassie a hard worker, Capricorn Clark says she preferred to be with her boyfriend. "When we moved to LA after Kim had the twins in 2009-ish, I saw her developing more of a relationship with Puff." Clark also notes that in 2016, Cassie's narcotic use was preventing her from opportunities. In regards to Cassie's career, Capricorn Clark says that between 2007 and 2010, Diddy was making sure Cassie had the best and top of everything for her career, from stylists, producers, choreographers, and more. She says Cassie had more attention and resources than other artists like Young Jock and a group from Atlanta. And Clark says by 2012, Cassie was getting the same amount of attention as artists like Machine Gun Kelly and French Montana. The defense then specifically asked Capricorn Clark if in 2016, when she was working as Cassie's creative director, if Cassie was forced to dye her hair green, but Clark says no. She says she presented the idea to Cassie as a new look for the MTV Video Music Awards, and Cassie was on board and had a say in the decision. And context here is the defense is highlighting this to counter what Cassie and other witnesses have said about Cassie having no say in her career or even her look. They all said it was Diddy's decision. And then the defense moves on to Cassie and Kid Cudi's relationship. Capricorn Clark says about a week before the alleged break-in and kidnapping, she picked up Cassie from Kid Cudi's house after Cassie spent the night there. But as far as she knew, at that time, Cassie was still in a relationship with Diddy. Capricorn Clark says the day Diddy came to her house at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, he had a weapon in his hand, but he did not point it at her. He was more so waving it around. Agnifilo then asked, "Isn't it true that you," meaning Clark, "went to Kid Cudi's house to make sure Diddy didn't do something stupid?" But Capricorn Clark says no, she went because Diddy told her he didn't care that she didn't want to go. And then Agnifilo seems to suggest that during an interview with Homeland Security, Capricorn Clark said that when Diddy came knocking on her door that morning, that he came with a building security guard, but Clark repeatedly denies that she ever told Homeland Security that. But she does say that when Diddy got to her building, he demanded a security guard let him into the building, and that security guard was fired after that. Agnifilo asked Clark if she actually saw how Diddy got into Kid Cudi's house, but she says her back was turned and she wasn't paying close attention, but she was praying that Kid Cudi was not inside. Clark then reiterates what she says happened when she was in the car outside Kid Cudi's house. She says she called Cassie and told her, "Puff came to my house with a weapon. We came to Cudi's house to off him." And then she says she heard Cudi in the background saying, "They're in my house." But during this questioning, Capricorn also now says that before she called Cassie that morning, she called Lauren London for 30 seconds because Lauren was like a sister to her and she wanted someone to know where she was. On the stand, Clark said, quote, "He was in the house and if he did get offed, I just needed somebody to know where I was in case this all went really bad." According to this reporting, after Clark thought about it on the stand, she then added that it's possible she called Lauren and Cassie on three-way, but she can't remember. So she may have called them each individually or she called them together on three-way. Clark then talks again about how her, Diddy, and the bodyguard chased after Kid Cudi, but eventually turned away and saw police pass them. And then there's a brief mention of Capricorn Clark being on vacation with Rihanna. And then the defense shows emails from 2014 and 2015 of Capricorn Clark asking Diddy to forgive her. In one email, she writes, quote, "She," meaning Cassie, "was never my friend. She wanted me gone, I realized." Agnifilo asked Clark if she thought Cassie wanted her gone, to which Clark, crying, says, "This is complicated for me. I felt that I was Puff's protector. I felt I was the only one gone and she was still there. Capricorn Clark goes on to say that when she did return to work for Diddy in 2016, she believed it was only because Cassie wanted to work with her, and she says that bothered her. And with that, cross-examination of Capricorn Clark is wrapped up, and then the government does a brief redirect, and then Capricorn Clark is excused from the stand. And that's the end of day 10. Make sure you like the video, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and hit the link in my bio for merch, because I got it.